Hey, welcome along to another episode of Talk Today with JK. I've got a special guest on with me, and I'm looking forward to the interview. Certainly one that has been long overdue, and yet forever thankful that he's given me the opportunity and his time as such a busy person to, discuss with you, the audience, on how we can bounce back and develop that resilient mindset that's required in order for us to overcome the challenges, the obstacles, the experiences that happen along the way, so that we can then move forward into a place of ownership of, of ourselves more than anything. And so without further delay, look, I'm going to just invite him in here, and know that by doing so, I want you to listen to the story and really take in what the message is going to be all about. So, my special guest today is Shane Anderson. Welcome in there, mate.
Johan, how are you, brother? How are you, my friend?
Fantastic. Hey, look, it's good, as I said, that we can interview and share the message with people of hope that you've given to many. You've inspired thousands, mate, to take on board for themselves not only their personal development, and that's where it's at, isn't it, really, to overcome the obstacles in life.
Yeah.
And to see that transformation happen for yourself as well. So grateful that you've given me the time and the next few minutes of just highlighting you in particular.
Mate, I'm excited to be here. It's honestly, as I said to you earlier, it's my honor, mate. I've known you for a lot of years, and I've watched you grow as a human being, and now your ability to get out there and get amongst everybody and share such a positive intent. And mate, I'm just happy to be here and happy to be involved.
Fantastic. Look, as you mentioned, we've known each other for a few years, and when I met you, so impactful, as I said, to thousands. And I can remember one trip that we went on together, and it was a cruise. That was fantastic time together. I enjoyed it thoroughly and met a lot of great people on that cruise together. Look, could you just share with us? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's funny how, the many years have passed, and, there's different experiences and different mindsets and different little trigger points that we remember in all of this as well. It's amazing to see how the wheel turns, so to speak. Sometimes we look back and, me and you, we met in a very different business. One that, looking back, a lot of people would probably say, could have potentially been a positive or a negative for certain people. I know that it was a positive for me. I'm not sure what it was for you as well, but the one positive grace out of that business was that it allowed a lot of us to all come together. And I always used to joke around that business was a travel business, but it was actually a personal development business disguised as a travel business. And I think that was a very, very key takeaway that we can all be happy that we had the pleasure of doing.
Yeah, that's for sure. And just sharing with some of the people that you've spent a bit of time with, and you can see yourself in that image there.
Yeah, head for radio. Always have had. Mate, look, the funny thing is like when you look at those pictures, 18 years old, I get involved in the car repair business. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would ever have the ability to or even the want to speak on stage. And it was sort of this crazy scenario that the first time I was asked to speak on stage, I was so terrified of actually talking on stage that I literally went up on stage and didn't say anything. They handed me a microphone, and I remember standing there looking at the microphone and just sort of freezing and not having anything to say, and passing the microphone back, and didn't even say my name. And you know, ironically, the way the world shifts around, you know, I start this personal journey with, you know, learning from some of the greatest leaders in the world, you know, Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki and Jay Abraham and all these fantastic world thought leaders. And along that way, I started to find my voice, and it wasn't a voice of me trying to tell people what they should do. It was more like a reluctant leader, I suppose. And by adopting that role of the ability to be able to share my experiences with other people, allowed them to come out of their shell. And before I knew it, I was sort of speaking on stage around the world, and, you know, spoke in Africa and Kenya in front of 2,500 people. And I was on stage in Dallas football stadium that you saw in that photo there, you know, close to 30,000 people at that stadium. And just, you don't realize how quickly this is going to happen. But when the world decides that it's your turn to speak, it's funny how it all just sort of falls into place. Yeah, that's the photo there. Like, if you have a look at that, that screen that you see me on in the background there, that is at the Dallas football stadium. That screen is 50 meters long. It's the largest high definition screen on the planet. It's at the Dallas football stadium. Just do a Google search on that and you'll understand how big that is. And that is so big that you can't even see me on the stage. I'm just like a speck down there in the middle of that. So it was mind-blowing, to say the least.
It's some fantastic times that you've had. So definitely I'd like to learn a bit more, and I'm sure the audience does, and I'll just bring up some of their comments as you're sharing. You know, where did it all start from? You said you're an 18-year-old and you're underneath a car and working away on it, panel beating, I suppose, and just tell us a bit about your background and where it's led you to.
Mate, so born and bred Gold Coast boy. You know, father was a panel beater. I found myself doing a lot of different jobs before I ended up in the panel beating industry myself. I was a hail chaser. So I did things always a little bit differently. That was probably a trait that was bred into me really early. And so I started chasing hailstorms around the world, fixing cars, and was making a really good business out of it. I thought I was doing extremely well. I had the Australian dream. I had a house and a falcon, all right, and a dog. So it was like one of those things that, you know, as far as my mindset goes, I was like ultimately successful. And but I had this burning desire to know more. And I think where my story really begins is about this thirst for knowledge. It was like a burning gut feel that there was more to me. And I started to search for that. And I really started to look at different people, and I come across Tony Robbins, and I listened to his tapes a few times, and I sort of thought he was quite interesting. And he was playing in Sydney at a live event down in Sydney, and I decided, look, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm just going to go down and see him live. So I paid for the most expensive ticket in the place. Ego wasn't a problem at all. Don't worry about that. So I get this really expensive ticket, and I go, and I'm sitting in the front row, and I had never been to a Tony Robbins event, so I didn't know what to expect. And everyone's jumping up and down and dancing, and I'm like sitting there going, I'm so far out of my comfort zone. I'm like, I don't know whether I'm supposed to be here and I had this moment. I had this like epiphany, and it was, I either walk out and I get what I've always had, or I stay and I play full tilt and go into the unknown. And there was a moment of reflection where I truly had to fight the urge to leave, because it was outside of what I would consider my comfort zone. But I stayed. I was like, all right, I'm going to stay and I'll play full tilt. And what happened was that in that process, I started to shift some things mentally that allowed me to really open up my eyes. I went down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and I learned some new things. I understood that even in business and it doesn't matter what it is, business, relationships, health, your connection to your ancestors or your loved ones or whatever it is for you, you don't have to know everything. There's people around you that have skill sets that you can tap into. And once I understood, oh, hang on a second, it's not about me knowing everything. I can go out and find people that have skill sets that harmonize with my skill set and allow me to become more. And then the moment I realized that skill, my whole world changed, because instead of trying to go out and trying to be the smartest man in the room, I took a back seat and started looking at other people as what is their greatest gift and how do I help them become more? And in that same process, how do they help me become more? And that harmony started to really resonate a frequency that just allowed me to go from panel beater to online business to all of a sudden being asked to speak on stage. And this is the same thing. It's the same process. So even when I was standing on stage and I couldn't speak, I came off stage. And I remember a friend saying to me, what went through your head to have you freeze up like that? And I said, you know what, when I was standing there, I was picturing them judging me. I was picturing them, mocking me. I was picturing them, thinking how stupid I was to be even up on stage speaking, this panel beater from the Gold Coast. Who gives this guy the right to talk? And she said, that's interesting. She said, and do you do the same thing when you watch other people speak? And Johan, I swear it hit me like a hammer in the head. It was like, that is probably my thought process. And when I realized I was just projecting my own fear, I was my own fear of they're going to judge me the same way as that I've been conditioned to judge others. And if I just let all of that go, if I remove that whole pattern, if I remove the thought process of what I feel when other people do it, and remove the thought that they're doing the same thing as me or I had in the past, what would happen? And out of that, I stood on stage. In fact, I challenged myself to stand on stage more and more and more until I started to resonate. And then all of a sudden, mate, I get invited over to Greece and I'm standing and I have this like surreal moment. And when I say this happened fast, I mean, this happened whirlwind fast, like from the moment of my epiphany to the moment of me standing underneath the Acropolis in Greece with 1,000 Greeks speaking with translators. And there's that many people in the room that they have to go and put TVs outside so people could actually see it outside because they couldn't get into the building because there was only 1,000 people could get in. And this happened within 3 months, 4 months of me having this thing. And all of a sudden it was like, I had this moment of what's happening, and it was, it sounds strange, but it wasn't me running the show. And the moment I took, I often say to people, the moment that you stop struggling to swim is the moment you realize that you float. And, it's a beautiful moment.
Nice. Awesome. Love it. Hey, look, it's fantastic. I love that picture that you've painted there of what's happened to you once you've let go of those preconceived ideas and notions that we tell ourselves often. One thing I'd like to ask, though, is, your background has led you to being successful in running your own businesses, but now you've moved back into something that you've really been passionate about. Can you share a bit about that? What is it?
Yeah, sure. So I think over the past few years, my thirst has been about trying to help people reach the best version of them. I called my company The Next Level. It was about how do we get to the next level of you, you know, and me and you have worked together in the past, and you would have seen the way that even, you know, some of the things like the Wolves Pack and stuff that we've done in the past. We did this 30-day challenge of just helping people get to the next version of them. And I once again started to, you know, sort of find some challenges in my mindset. I couldn't understand what it was. And I started to realize, and you'd be able to really appreciate this, mate. You know, I was trying to help so many people that not a lot of people were going through the door I was opening for them. Like I was truly trying to give them something for nothing, but they were seeing it as like a, well, why would you give it to me for free? I wouldn't give it to you for free. So why would you give that to me for free? So all of a sudden I was mirroring their fears. Does that make sense? And all of a sudden I started to really, I got a little bit disjointed. I got a little bit disheartened out of that, because it became a little difficult for me to understand why people would think that of me or whatever. And so I started to realize that it wasn't my job to push people through the door of the next level of them. It was just my job to show them that there was a door. And if somebody wanted to go through that process, that was entirely up to them, you know, and if they didn't want to go through that process, that is okay. It's okay. It's okay to be where you are now. And so what happened was that along that way, I started to realize, and some belief systems started to dissolve in me, where it was like, I've got to go out and try and, you know, help everybody, to why don't I just stay in my lane and just do what I do best, which is help businesses get to the next level. So I started to go down that route again. And what happened for me is, you know, I went out of the public eye, so to speak. But the good thing for me is it allowed me to go back into a more corporate style role where I could just work with businesses. Now, I've still got my own way of doing things. It's always going to be you know, the silly way that I do things is going to be always the silly way that I do things. But that's what makes me me. And I'm never going to try and lose that. The beauty of that is that I'm going to be able to help businesses along the way. And I can do that in a really simple, easy, non-obstructive. And, you know, the funny thing is that same sort of challenges apply in business, where people go, well, wait, you know, you're not going to give me that for free, are you? But in business, you have the right to turn around and go, no, you know, right, it's not for free. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars. And they're okay with that. They don't take offense. Whereas if you say that to your friends and family, they seem to jump up and down. So, you know, the good thing about it, we got a nice low cost to actually get in the door. But people come in and they see something. People will always see what they want to see, right? They will either see, you know, oh, here's a really cool way for me to get involved and get new customers, or they'll think of themselves as, oh, wow, this is a chance for me to get, you know, connected with some really high influential people in business and do that at a really low cost way. Let's see where that goes. Either way, I think if somebody, you know, takes that chance, that's a pretty cool thing.
Awesome. So since you go and build businesses or take them and scale them to the next level, could you just share with us perhaps, you know, one little tidbit that might be able to help our audience out, those that may be in business now during this pandemic of times, and what your advice would be for them?
Yeah, sure. In fact, this is going to sound simple, but it's probably the most important business advice you'll ever get. There is a great business leader by the name of Jay Abraham, who I had the pleasure of meeting. This guy is a superstar in businesses. He owns all types of businesses. He's a business guru. And he always said that there was 3 ways to build any business. So I don't care whether you have a hairdressing studio, you're in network marketing, you're in online sales. I don't care what it is. There's only 3 ways to really grow your business. And the first way is get more customers, right? Increase the amount of times that they come back and see you, or increase the amount of money that they spend per transaction. Now, I know that sounds simplistic, but if you just look at business in those 3 ways, how do you bring more customers in? How do you increase the amounts of time that they come in. Now, you might be, let's say you're in an online business or a direct selling business. That might be a referral. You might switch that frequency out, obviously, to a referral. And then the third thing is how much they buy per transaction. So if you can increase those three things by 10%, you don't increase your bottom line by 10%. What you do is you actually increase your bottom line by a whopping 33%. Okay, so I'll give you some raw numbers here so you can actually get your heads around this. So let's say you had 1,000 customers in your business and they all spent $100 to do business with you, and they did that twice a year. Okay, those simple numbers, if you increase that 1,000 customers just 10%, so this is 1,000 customers in your entire business cycle. If you were able to increase that to maybe 1,100 customers, which is 10% upgrade, and then you increase the amount they spend from, let's say, $100, right, to $110, and then the frequency or their referral rate from, like, let's say 2 times a year to 2.2 times a year. It's hard to do without numbers, but if it was 1,000 buying $100 product twice a year, your business turnover is around $200,000. If you increase those three indicators by just 10% each, you're now looking at a turnover of over $266,000. And that's pure, not pure profit, but mainly profit, because you've already paid for all your expenses out of your other, money. So what we really do is just try and harness those little bits and just show somebody, okay, let's have a look and see how many customers you have in the business and see if we can just increase that by 10%. And then, do the same with the other two KPIs, mate. And, we're able to change businesses really dramatically, really fast, and put a lot more money back in somebody's pocket. And I think, in today's day and age, especially with, all of the things that we're seeing with, dare I say it, COVID and all of these things that are happening in the world right now, mate, I don't think that there's ever been a greater need for people to, especially small and medium business owners, to link arms and say, let's look after each other for a change instead of all battling it out for the same dollar. There's enough dollars out there for all of us. Let's stick together and, really sort of see where we can go as a group. And mate, I'm pretty excited about that. The analogy that really sort of sticks out to me here, Johan, is, remember the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe? Right, that he's sitting there in the gladiatorial pit, and there's like 6 or 7 gladiators, and they're getting mowed down by this chariot that's going around and sort of clean them all up. And mate, that's what we are in business at the moment. We're all separated, and we're trying to do this battle in this gladiatorial field, and we're getting mowed down. And the only way that we can get out of this, or not the only way, but the fastest, quickest, and most efficient way that we can get out of this is to bond together. The moment that we come together and fight the one enemy, which is how do we get through this period of time, we can do this. We can do it. There's hope. There's light. There's an ability for us. And mate, somebody like yourself, you have so much inspiration to people like myself, mate. You've gone through so many challenges, yet you continually inspire. And this is what I think people need to just sit back and realize, is that they can watch or they can get in the ring. It's time for them to really step into the gladiatorial pit and link arms with yourself and myself and some of the other gladiators that are out there at the moment, trying to help the greater good. And it's time. We need people to help, in more ways than one, so that we can shift the mindset of not just the generation that's here now, but shift the mindset of the generations to come that are, that will not face the same fears that we faced, mate. And I think it's a noble approach and one that's worthy of a fight.
Wow, love that. And great movie, by the way. Great movie.
Oh, isn't it right? Oh, Russell Crowe looks like he's eaten a few pies though recently, I tell you.
Hey, look, there was something that I opened up with at the beginning, and we discussed before we went online about, you said some famous Kiwi spoke about something,
Yeah.
And can
Edmund
you
Hillary.
recall what that is? Yes.
Yeah, well, it's a quote that I use a lot, and it's one that I sort of really resonate with, and that is: a sound mind, an honest heart, and a humble soul is the only way through life and into eternity. And any person that gives advice should first give evidence of having all three. And Sir Edmund Hillary said that famous quote, and I really resonate with that because for me, there's a lot of people out there that like to talk. You know, there's so many people out there at the moment that consider themselves life coaches or, you know, this, that, and the other. And if you just use that framework to not only judge who you should speak to or who you should listen to, but also how you deliver a message. Because there's a lot of times when you may have something to say, but if you use a sound mind and you use a humble soul and an honest heart, if you use those three things effectively, it doesn't matter what you say at that point, whether the person gets it or not, you've delivered it from the right space, you've delivered it in the right frequency. And I think that has a resonance that if you can do that consistently, you don't know where it's going to lead to. I'm living proof of being able to just do a simple message from the heart and having that explode globally. All I can say is that might not be in your wish list. It might not be in your things to do, but who's to say that that's in your control? It might not be in your control to decide whether it's your, time to speak or not. Just all I'm saying is resonate at the right frequency, be the right version of you, make sure that the people around you are giving you the same sort of love, care, affection, and humility, and everything should be okay.
So that leads me into the second to last question that I have here on my clipboard. Okay,
yes.
So a recent success story. Could you share with us one of those? Would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, look, the funny thing is that I get success out of a lot of little things now. For me, I could give you really big success, but we were having a joke just before this started. I did a live this morning. One of the things that I actually wanted to do was to do 30 days straight of getting up at 6 o'clock every morning and starting, my day with hot yoga or hot Pilates. And I'm the worst person in the room when it comes to any form of stretching. I've got no flexibility at all. I look like a piece of 4B2, but I did it consistently over that period of time. And mate, it's funny that I know that's probably not the success most people would think that I would choose, but it genuinely was a good point for me because it gave me the ability, and I said this in the live this morning, it gave me the ability to understand that sometimes life isn't about winning the game, or let me phrase that a different way. Sometimes what can seem like a failure or a challenge can actually be the thing that sets you on the pathway to your greatest success. And me struggling in that room each day, it would have been very easy for me to go, well, this isn't for me. I'm going to go do something that is for me. But I persist with it because it allows me to then go, well, my objective here isn't to be the best person in the room. My objective here is to be the best version of me. And a lot of people, when we're talking about personal development and becoming the best version of themselves, they think that they need to put on this coat, this magic coat of invincibility and become this great version of themselves, where what I'm challenging people to do is, hey, what about if we drop the layers? What about if we, cut through the mask and the facade and all of the layers of who you tell people who you are, the ego, the labels that you think you are, and you just become the authentic version of you. And mate, nobody screams this more, in my opinion, than you, brother. You have become a shining light. You are literally finding your voice on a global stage. You are inspiring people around you, and to me, that's inspiring, because I go, you've dropped all of the labels that you could have put on yourself and said, you know what, I'm going to be the best version of me. And who can I change in the world here today? And mate, I just wish there was more people like you in the world, brother, because that to me is like what it's all about.
Well, thanks so much, bro. That's appreciate it. Overwhelmed at the moment. Look, finally, I suppose as we wrap this up, where can people receive, some free additional support from you? Where can they go to?
Yeah, probably the best bet, just jump on my website, shaneanderson.biz. Yeah, look at that ticker down the bottom. I love that. Look at that. Yeah, that's probably the best way. I got a free book. It was about the 30-day challenge that we did called the Next Level Challenge. Well, at the time, it was called the Full Moon Challenge. We did a 30-day challenge. In those 4 weeks, we covered 4 main areas, which was wellness, oneness, lifestyle, and finances, WOLF, right? The wolf. And, the analogy there may seem aggressive, but I feel like we are all like lone wolves. We're running around, same sort of thing, trying to battle the world by ourselves. But if we come together as a pack, we're so much more powerful. And that was the ability to really kick in. So look, you can read that book for nothing. There's videos there. There's a whole bunch of stuff. If you have a business or an ABN and you want to get involved, especially if you have a business in Australia or New Zealand and you want to be able to, find some really cool ways to increase that business, by all means, just reach out either by private message or just reach out to Johan. He can give you my details, and or even through the website, and we'll do something about it.
Well, mate, we've gone over than what I thought we were going to, but I'm
sorry
so
about
glad that we have. No, don't be sorry. It's been enlightening. It's been empowering. Certainly gives us something to think about, in our, I suppose people are either at crisis point, or they're going into a crisis, or they're coming out of it.
That's it, mate. Like I heard a saying once that said, winter is here. And even though we're coming into a spring right now, in a financial winter is here. Now, some people will choose to freeze to death. Some people will choose to go skiing. It's literally your choice, how you treat it.
Love it. Love it. Well, Shane, thank you so much for being here, and stay on. I'll put you in the green room for a little while, but really appreciate it as I'll wrap this up.
Thanks, mate.
So, what I've learned today from such an energetic and positive Aussie bloke is that we have the potential to rise above where we believe we are at any station of life, to be the best version of ourselves through his, not only through the way that he's conducted himself over the years. Sure, there's been challenges for him, as there are challenges for you. What we need to do is work on ourselves. It's an inside job. It always has been, always will be. And until we come to that realization, we'll keep on moving around, wondering where I'm going to get the support. And that's okay too. Once you do take the bull by the horns, you'll feel much better, in a better place to be able to overcome the challenges, whether they're financial challenges, wondering where money is going to come from to pay the bills, whether it's health, whether it's something that has to do with our psychology. These things all change from the inside. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to take a break for a month. Next 2 weeks is going to be with the children and going to spend some energy time with them. Look forward to it. But please join us again as I interview a woman from New Zealand on my next show, Talk Today with JK. Thank you so much for being here, and look forward to you being present once again. And remember this, something that I teach and share with not only youth, but business leaders themselves. If you don't like where you are, you have to change it.